guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Barbara Fernandez, and today I want to talk to my fellow speech language therapists about that relationship that we have with parents. I have moved to the other side, and I have two kids that are actually receiving speech language therapy services from speech language therapists in a variety of different settings. And I had a ton of different insights that actually led me to create a presentation for the Texas Speech Convention last spring, and I'm actually doing this presentation again at the ASHA conference this year in November. But I thought it'd be a great idea, since we're back to school, to talk about parent communication, ways that you can actually improve the communication, get parents involved in therapy a little more. I know that this parent-speech therapist relationship can vary a lot depending on the setting that you're currently delivering services. The fact that actually my two children received services in a variety of different settings allow me to talk a little bit about this slight difference and different actually opportunities that we have to get parents a little more involved in the service delivery. One of the reasons why I also decided to make this video now, I recently saw on a Facebook group, somebody posted the question, what is your current communication methods with the parents? Do you ever call them, text them? And I was actually quite surprised at the variety of different answers, but in particular, I was shocked at the number of speech language therapists who were like, no way, completely against parent communication. We know that parents are essential to progress in therapy. I was amazed and very shocked and sad to see fellow SLPs distancing themselves from parents when we know how important parents are in the progress that we do in therapy. Forget that you don't want to be bothered at unusual hours. People gave all sorts of very interesting responses and reasons for not actually engaging the parent in this relationship, such as, I don't want the parent to contact me on a weekend, or I've had a parent call me late night and abuse that relationship. There are various tools that you can put in place today to leave a channel opened and knowing that it's not going to be abused. You can use a variety of different tools that hopefully I'll be able to talk later, but that is an hour-long presentation that I'm giving, and I'm trying to keep these videos short. So maybe talking about the tools will require a different video. We'll see where I get if I'll try to not ramble too much on this video. In fact, the research does show, there's a research study that I read about parent participation by the Hannon's organization. It's actually said that parents were more effective in improving their child's communication than the speech therapists were when the parents were instructed on what to do in their home setting. There's a ton of other information that I want to post information here for you guys to read. See the link below. My son received services primarily at his school, and that has been the one place where I believe that we can actually improve significantly. He started receiving services when he was 3 at a preschool, and he's also now receiving services. So the school SLPs have a slightly different challenge than the SLPs that are servicing in the other settings like home health or even outpatient clinic. My daughter, she is receiving services. Currently, we're using a home health agency. So the therapist comes to my home, delivers the service with me right there. And she also received service in outpatient. Actually, now that I remember, my son also received outpatient therapy at a children's hospital here in the Dallas area. So the SLP was doing feeding therapy. So these different settings have different challenges and opportunities. But we all agree that regardless of the setting that you're in, parents are extremely important in the progress. Sometimes it does baffle me that we are not spending more time in this parent relationship and guiding them, giving them more information. The reality is that we are usually providing services at 30 minutes a week, hour a week. If you're lucky with more intensive therapy, you can get twice a week or more, but this is actually the minority of the services we are delivering. the vast majority, from my experience, is a very very short sessions within a week. When you think of the span that in a child's life, just let's picture a week. We are only giving services 30 minutes a week. So my daughter is actually receiving home health services for about 45 minutes a week. The therapist is here for an hour, and she takes less than 15 minutes to write her notes. So 45 minutes a day, right? That it's not even 10%, that it's less than 5% of the child's day. But even if we consider the awake time, that is just maybe 10% of a 12-hour awake time. That's nothing when you consider the amount of time that the parents are with the child. So we really need to boost this relationship of child-parent to support the parent in delivering more strategies to support this language communication or speech. So first I want to talk about ECI, which is the early childhood intervention, because I think that is the place that is currently already set up for this relationship. First, because the therapist comes to the home and has the parent there to observe. Actually, the whole premise of ECI is to come to your home to show the parent how you can use various strategies to support that development. Speech, language, or even PT, OT, other professionals do the same. They aren't necessarily doing the services in of itself, but they're actually modeling how you can, on those other hours, support this development and practice in times the therapist isn't present. So ECI is the perfect, I feel like I can almost make no changes to the relationship. And then I'm going to move to the outpatient clinic setting. I've had two experiences, both with my son and my daughter. The Children's Hospital in Dallas, the way they currently set up their services, you bring the child, and this is for feeding therapy. I'm not sure, I don't want to generalize on how they do the services in other areas, but I'm talking specifically for feeding therapy. I was actually quite happy that the way they deliver their feeding therapy, they will have an SLP with the group for the feeding therapy for that hour that they're there. And during that time, they have another speech language pathologist with the parents in a room where they can observe the therapy. And the other SLP can actually discuss with the parents the strategies that the therapist is using so that that can be transferred over to the home. In a theoretical scenario, that would have been incredible because the therapist we're not disturbing the therapy time actually to give parent an explanation. We have a secondary SLP. But I know that for a lot of other settings, this is not the reality. You always have one therapist to deal with the child and the parent. In this particular case, in my case, there was a major communication breakdown from what I had observed, and being there as a parent, I noticed that the therapist wasn't actually reading well the parents, listening to their struggles. They were just giving strategies that the parents actually had already implemented themselves, and it wasn't working. So I think the problem in that case wasn't necessarily the setup. The setup was perfect. Two therapists, one with the parent, one with the child. But I think it's the therapist wasn't actually listening to the parents' concerns, to the parents' attempts, because the feeding, as you know, it's a very slow process, and it takes a lot of work from the parent on a daily basis to make progress. But that's another setting. And in that context, my suggestion would be also very minimal, in the sense where we would need to improve how we actually listen to the parent in that relationship, not just be giving the information, because parents who are coming from different socioeconomic status, educational levels, and I saw that we needed somebody who could be able to pick up on that different communication level that the parents required to be able to give appropriate information. In that particular setting, one of my biggest struggles and the thing that actually baffled me is how communication was being sent home for the parents to see the progress. They are still using a handwritten note to communicate with the parents about the progress on the desensitization to the foods. I don't even know if I said the word correctly, but you know what I'm talking about. So they were writing the food that they were giving. Actually, now that I think about it, they actually had 2 therapists in the room with the child. They had one therapist providing the food, and they had another one taking these notes, and the third one with the parents. So this is a very unusual scenario. It's a great scenario. But the point that I want to talk about mostly is for school-based SLPs, because that's the majority of speech therapists out there. And that's the one that actually needs the most improvement, in my opinion. I've had an experience to deal with 2 different SLPs. The first school where my son first started as a 3-year-old, and a very fresh SLP that I'm talking to right now, the new school year. They're both great personalities, great SLPs. The issue that I find mostly is that we don't have an actual setup for communication. I only interacted with both of these SLPs because I pulled my SLP card. I actually had to go on the website of the school to get the name of the SLP that is assigned to the campus where my son works, and I actually emailed her directly. This is not the way it should be. It should not be this hard for parents to communicate with speech-language pathologists that work in a school setting. I know that there's a whole conversation about how busy we are working in the schools. I've worked in the school district myself. I know the caseload is enormous, but that's a topic for another video. If you're actually wanting to improve progress and maybe these kids will be dismissed sooner, is actually a way to include the parents in this conversation. There's a ton of other reasons that I could be discussing here, but I'm hoping that we've moved from the point of the importance of parent communication. And now I continue to sharing my experience with the past SLP. I met her because she was the SLP present during the evaluation, and I kept that line of communication open. But if we are expecting a 6-week progress note that actually is nothing but check marks or percentage of accuracy to be the only source of communication, I feel like we are extremely failing these children. Communicating with parents via check marks from a computer software is no way for us to get parents engaged in the therapeutic process. The video is getting too long, and I want to just briefly mention about some platforms that you guys can use. The teacher, my son this year, is using a program called Seesaw, and she actually sends me photos of my son in the classroom. Why can't we do this to communicate with the parents? There is also an app that I created, Therapy Report Center, that allows us to document with photos and other information. Why not just simply send an email to the parent with that stuff that we are tracking on a daily basis using the iPad? I will record a new video, I promise, next week. The video is going to be about the tools to use in parent communication. But I want to keep this video under 10 minutes or so, or at least around 10 minutes. So, in closing on today's video, I hope we have gotten on the same page that we do need to improve parent communication. Not only in therapy, I want to also talk about assessment. You know, there's a whole other subject for no other video about how we actually communicate with parents during the assessment and communicating the results to the parents. But how in different settings, we have different ways that we can get the parents engaged in therapy. And finally, the school SLPs are the one that I believe, in my opinion, need the most work. I know we are overworked, caseload is huge, and we are afraid of parents abusing that communication channel. For the 1 or 2 parents out of the 50 that will abuse, do not let this prevent you from initiating communication with the other 48 parents that won't be able to restrain themselves from abusing this communication channel. Allow parents to be a part of this, share information about their kids that will be so helpful for you in therapy. Parents can be a source for questions and share the achievements of the students. Sometimes we get so excited when a child makes a progress, and we have a parent home that would be just as excited to hear about those news. Make sure you share that with them. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to make sure that you check out my video next week about the tools that you can use to avoid certain problems, make sure you subscribe to my channel today. Again, my name is Barbara Fernandez, and I wish you all the best in the new school year. Bye, everybody. That was an awkward bye, everybody, right? Let's do like this or like this. Well, the important is for me to say bye to everybody. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time.